Bienvenidos a Vox Terra. Today, on February 3rd, just before 9 p.m. Eastern Time, a Norfolk Southern train derailed near East Palestine, Ohio. And toxic chemicals spilled. There was controlled burning and explosions, as well as controlled leaks in order to prevent further and larger, more devastating explosions. And that part is citing National Public Radio. Well, what this story that should be screaming headline news should be about is, one, our environment, two, campaign donations, and three, really the very nature of this economy and what hidden agendas lurk behind what I call false patriotism. So starting with campaign donations, that issue was first flagged for me on a show called Democracy Now! But when I found you a citation, I looked to ABC 6, WSYX Columbus, Norfolk Southern plied Ohio politicians with campaign cash, extensive lobbying. And the first example that article provides is, in almost exactly a month before Norfolk Southern train derailed and spewed hazardous material, the company gave the maximum $10,000 to help bankroll Governor Mike DeWine's inaugural festivities. Now, the article goes on to give a lot more examples than that here, all focused on the rail company. And another question jumping out at you might be, well, what's Mike DeWine's political affiliation? It is Republican. And I point that out for a reason, because as I've showed you in the past, if we look at open secrets tracking campaign contributions, the fossil fuel money going to Republicans is far more disproportionate with them than it is to Democrats. Another part of this story should just be poor regulations in general. And there we could do a separate show discussing what are some of the problems with the regulations as they're currently configured. But one argument we hear against good, solid, sound regulation is there's not enough money to go around for enforcement. Well, part of the problem with that argument is that it's really taking for granted the nature of this current setup, this current economy. That's all we have, and that's the best we could have. Well, what do I mean by that? Think of the economy as steering human effort. Think of it as what is it steering our efforts into? And wouldn't a base level need be steering our efforts in towards safety and health? Rather than, say, what? Manufacturing disposable plastic cups and spending your life that way. Now, plastic cups is a good segue to the next part. I heard on Living on Earth, one of the main chemicals that were spilled was a product called vinyl chloride, an essential component in certain types of plastic manufacturing. And by plastics here, I mean petrochemical-based plastics, meaning they're made out of a fossil fuel like natural gas or oil. So Living on Earth pointed out that the plastics industry, many environmentalists are saying, is the plan B for the fossil fuel industry should its spigot turn down a bit in terms of fueling vehicles and transportation. Well, citing the NIH, or National Institute of Health, some of the largest uses of vinyl chloride or polyvinyl chloride is plastic piping, which is replacing copper piping, floor coverings, which is often being put over natural wood floors if you're restoring or rehabbing an old home, and then they list consumer goods, which brings us back to this whole nature of the economy, all this mundane consumerism. Citing cancer.gov, uses of vinyl chloride also include packaging materials, and it's used as a combustion product in tobacco. Now, I wonder if we should also add, commercial grade marijuana onto that as well. Cancer.gov poses the question, which cancers are associated with exposure to vinyl chloride? Vinyl chloride exposure is associated with an increased risk of a rare form of liver cancer, as well as primary liver cancer, brain and lung cancers, lymphoma, and leukemia. Now, based on my research, it looks to me like other types of petrochemical-based plastics are used in the manufacture of things like disposable cups and cutlery, but I'm sure we can rest assured that those manufacturing processes also involve a lot of toxicity, greenhouse gases, and carcinogens. So I just want my viewers to have this picture in their head they can share with others that we are pumping this earth full of greenhouse gases and carcinogens for largely mundane consumerism. Living on Earth also brought up another great point, that the right to know laws were curtailed after 9/11. So a lot of times the public doesn't even know what's in these products or containers shipping products around. Now, that episode seems satisfied with the rationale for curtailing right to know, which was to prevent terrorists from getting their hands on chemicals. But I argue you should look to those hidden agendas that are served under the banner of what I call false patriotism, or getting you revved up about a foreign adversary. If you don't know what's in it, how's it going to hurt you? That kind of thing. If you don't know what's in it, who's just going to stand up and protest it. We see that a lot with fracking chemicals and their proprietary mixes. So another issue to this toxic economy is the cleanup and shipping of it, and what happens from there. Well, another NPR article pointed out that the waters themselves from the cleanup are now contaminated, and they're in the process of being shipped to Texas. Well, think about what's happening in Texas, and think about that, my concept I'm trying to share with you about hidden agendas. In Texas right now, there's a lot of controversy being drummed up about excluding people of Chinese nationality or Iranian or Russian from owning property, and the whole mess this is going to cause, and all the distress and upset and hurt feelings on a national level. Now people are getting caught up in that. Meanwhile, don't look at those toxic chemicals coming into Texas. And speaking about shipping, the other day I saw a tanker truck fell over on the side of the road. It had an accident. Now, most accidents are related to speed. Oh yeah, and by the way, we know Texas Governor Abbott is a Republican. Now so again, regarding speed, I heard a New York politician advocating for raising the speed limits in New York. Well, and he admitted will lead to more accidents, but was dismissive. It's going to be minimal. Well, I don't think it's very minimal if you're the person who died in that accident or got severely injured in it. Raising the speed limits, as far as I know, are also going to consume more fuel and lead to more of these kind of overturned tankers carrying toxic chemicals. And what you should ask yourself here, if you feel like you're in an almighty rush, maybe you are, but you should question the system that's putting you in this almighty rush. The biggest takeaway from my shows I'm hoping you'll come away with is the concept of that our economy is supposed to be serving humanity, not humanity sacrificing its life on the altar of this economy. And keep in mind why the public isn't thinking in these terms is because the profits from these industry can then be used to fund think tanks, public relations campaigns, advertising, which is then going to influence all the media outlets, or at least a lot of them, sponsorship, denial, dismissal about the effects of the chemicals or the petrochemical products. And this system instead will get you to focus on some outnumbered group of people or for an adversary as a way to really taking your eyes off of the prize. That's what I believe. But if you have as your North Star what a greener, healthier world would look like, you might be thinking in terms of locally sourced products that are more natural based rather than synthetic, reused materials. And you're not going to dismiss rail because you would know the environmental movement has been arguing for rail over trucking. But here we're really looking at the deregulation of the rails, the underfunding, because rail shipping apparently uses less fuel, again, than shipping by individual trucks. And you want to think about a society that's geared up towards our long-term survival and as a minimal safety. Realize this almighty rush is really largely a rush to nowhere, or even worse, in the words of Devo, it's a race of doom. Well, I hope you found this show helpful, entertaining. If you did, please make sure you are subscribed to my channel. You click that notification bell, you're liking, you're commenting, you're joining my patrons at Patreon. Thank you, Belle Lagrissi and Environmental Coffee House. And until next time, and as always, peace be with you.